Should violent video games be sold to children? In today's time, violent video games have been the cause of many incidents. The world today has changed in so many ways, and it has not always been for the better. The world is no longer a safe place to live in because of all the violence being pushed into children's minds. Today's generation depends on the mind and skills of each individual child. One effect of violence is uncontainable children, which can cause danger and death. Children act and respond to the actions which are around them and are taught to them. Without the violence being used in video games, children would not have the foul and aggressive personalities that they do now. Children learn and act according to what they see and hear. The character of a child is developed by what he is taught and involved in. When a child plays a violent video game for a long period of time throughout the day, the game has a large influence in teaching the child. According to one person, video games are in 80% of U.S. homes, and they generate $6 billion in 2000 and $11 billion in 2003. Parents buy their child a new video game as soon as it comes out. In today's time, a video game with guns, knives, and killings seems to be the only type of game played by children. As the child begins to play these type of video games, he then keeps playing them more and more. The child gets sucked into the game and then gets totally involved. Most parents try to do what is best for their child, though, and to teach them right from wrong. By giving them the impression that violent video games are right, they are teaching their child that acting with violence and aggressiveness is acceptable. This can be a possible cause of a horrifying action performed by the child. At first, it's just a game, but as time goes by, the game turns into a reality. According to the governor of Illinois, violent video games don't just show criminal acts, they let the kids commit them. Children also tend to do more of an action when they are rewarded for any of their actions. During the levels of a violent video game, the game rewards the player for doing a good job by saying "great job" or "great work." The child feels rewarded for doing such a great job and feels that he has done the right thing. Well, according to the 2000 Federal of Investigation report about the country's recent history of school shootings, noted that the higher risk student spends inordinate amounts of time playing video games with violent themes and seems more interested in the violent images than the game itself. But there is a high rate of rejection, though, to the idea that violent video games causes aggressive behavior. Some people, and mostly children, feel that they do not become affected by the game and that it will not cause them to become violent. Although in some cases this theory may be true, the person who discards the thought of themselves becoming affected is just as blinded by the reality of it as anyone else. Many people also say children who play video games have seen cartoon characters such as Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd shooting at each other's heads all the time and can distinguish pretty clearly between the cartoonish nature of a video game and the reality that video games are just that, games. This may be so, but violence back then was not the same as it is now. The graphics are more realistic and expressed much more in video games today. When video game companies emphasize the matter of violence, this affects the child's mind more, especially when the child is young. No one can say for sure, though, if violent video games will affect a child or not. Sometimes it can depend on the child or the lifestyle the child is brought up in. Either way, the personality of a child reflects what the child is around and taught. Violence in video games teaches children to be led the wrong way in life and can and increases physiologically aroused and physically aggressive behavior, such as hitting, kicking, pulling clothes, or hair. A child who proceeds in playing a violent video game can cause a situation in reality to become horrible for the child and for others around. Violence is never a decent method, and it is always good to keep a child away from violence if possible. So to help prevent violence being in the minds of children, parents can keep their child from playing or being around the violent video games played in so many in the world today.